Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to another episode of the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, have you ever logged into your work or home PC and made a note of how many applications or websites that you actually need a username and password for, or just to authenticate? I suspect if you were to write it down, that you could easily reach between 50 and 100 different usernames and passwords that you actually use on a regular basis, especially if you include your home and your work life in that. It seems that the present system just doesn't work. And most people are going to crumble at some point and use the same details to make their life easier, but essentially put themselves in danger in the process. But what if you could eliminate usernames and passwords entirely? Make managing passwords more convenient for the masses and produce physical identification that just can't be faked. Today's guest is going to discuss the current flawed authentication process that companies have in place and reveal how to improve the systems for media, entertainment, e-commerce, retail, finance, and so many other regulated organisations. WWPass is a global security company that provides identity, authentication and access management technology. The company battles data breaches and identity theft with advanced authentication and data storage technology to deliver a user experience that is as convenient as it is secure. Now, WWPass also serves individuals, small and medium-sized businesses, as well as enterprises in higher education, e-commerce and other industries that need to provide their customers and employees with superior security and convenience. Now, given authentication is heating up with the popularity of biometrics, I thought it was time to have a conversation with Perry Chaffee. He's the VP of Strategy at WWPass and makers of the password manager PassHub. So buckle up, hold on tight, so I can beam your ears all the way to the Boston area so we can speak with Perry from WWPass, who's ready to tell us how to tackle that username and password problem. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Perry. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm the Vice President of Strategy for Worldwide Pass, and before that I was in the Air Force. And I entered the Air Force Academy right after 9/11 and served for a total of 12 years as a cyber warfare officer and as a defense acquisitions project manager. And after that I transitioned to a project management role as a defense contractor, working for the organization that manages the Air Force Network's help desk for their Tier 2 and Tier 3 support. This is where the IT professionals at the local installations go for help when they're unable to resolve problems at their level. And then since joining Worldwide Pass, I've been working to bring the value of our technology to the world.
So with that previous life in the US Air Force, I mean, you learned the ramifications of data breaches on personal information firsthand. Especially because you had your own files compromised in the widespread OPM hack. But can I take you back in time to that life and exactly what happened at that time?
Yes. At the time I was working for the Air Force as a defense contractor, and it came out that the records of the security clearance background investigations for me and pretty much everyone else that I knew who had a security clearance had been compromised. And the hackers had access to the full data set for over a year before anyone even noticed. It was similar to Equifax, but actually much worse. Those investigations are extremely thorough and sensitive, and they didn't just get my name and social security number. They also include all of your credit information, just like Equifax, and they also got a list of every single place I'd ever lived, even including hotels in between houses, and they gave the names and social security numbers of my immediate family, as well as lists of friends and neighbors. And there were detailed interviews with psychologists and with people who knew me at all of the different places that I lived. And there were complete sets of fingerprint images. And with that, I don't mean biometric scans where the pattern has been turned into binary using algorithm. I mean actual images of the fingerprints themselves. So those could get compromised again and again with new algorithms for scanning and turning them into binary. So basically anything you'd need to fake my identity was permanently compromised in that breach.
Wow, that must have been incredibly scary and a real eye-opener for you back at the time.
It definitely was.
So looking back, if you join up the dots, do you think that it was that moment that planted the seed for what you're doing now?
It was definitely a factor. And the government's response seemed like a bad joke. They basically offered everyone insurance against identity theft for a relatively short period of time. It was like saying, even though we screwed up and you and your family's credentials are permanently compromised for the rest of your lives, we'll only cover you for a few years, and then after that, you're on your own. And it was especially sickening to me because the government is the primary source of identity for most people. They have a monopoly on issuing birth certificates, social security numbers, driver's licenses, passports, and so on. So you have no choice. You don't have any alternative. You have to go to the government for it. They're responsible for issuing it, and they're responsible for safeguarding it. But if they screw up, then it's all on you. There are definitely better ways of doing things, and whether or not they recognize it and agree, we're in dire need of change.
So here we are in 2018. I mean, how is the combination of WWPass, Password Manager, PassHub, helping identity, authentication, and access management technology to battle those data breaches and, most importantly as well, identity theft?
Well, Worldwide Pass is a paradigm shift away from traditional approaches to identity and access management, and it eliminates the leading cause of data breaches and identity theft by taking human-readable credentials such as passwords, usernames, personal identifying information, and answers to security questions out of the equation, and then replacing them with something you have, such as your phone, a smart card ID, or a USB key set. And these devices function as cryptographic microcomputers and contain encrypted data that is not accessible to any human at any point. When the user authenticates using these devices, the information travels through end-to-end encrypted channels and is then used to reassemble encrypted, fragmented, distributed, and compartmentalized credentials from a secure distributed data storage system in the cloud. And when it comes to authentication, humans are the weakest link, both from the end-user perspective and from the enterprise perspective. Using something you have instead of something you know greatly improves security while also dramatically reducing the burden to human users or admins. And because we built a true zero-knowledge system, humans are removed from all of the aspects of this process which hackers would usually seek to exploit.
Now, during my IT days in my former life, the number one problem as far as the board members and all the employees were concerned was that they had 5 to 10 essential applications that all needed unique usernames and passwords, and they all hated that. They just wanted one login. So when I recently read how you're not only planning on killing the password, but you're also helping companies to get rid of usernames altogether too. So can you tell me more about that alternative, which gives that single sign-on, but without the compromise?
Yes, well, actually 5 to 10 applications is really on the low side when you think about it. Yeah. People aren't just juggling the passwords that they need for work, they're also juggling all the ones that they use in their personal lives. And today the average person has over 100 accounts which are protected by passwords. According to Google, up to 43% of existing passwords are reused across multiple accounts. And that's a terrible practice because if one site gets breached, then your compromised credentials could be used to access other sites. So for example, if you use the same password for your email account, like Gmail, as for your other accounts at smaller, less seriously protected sites, one of those weaker sites could get compromised, and then the superior security from your email service provider, like Google, would do nothing to stop them once they've already got your password. And usernames make this even worse because even if you use a different password everywhere, you probably use the same username everywhere. So once someone knows your username, they're already halfway in your account. They just need to guess your password. And since usernames are often publicly known email addresses, this is just a problem for most people.
Now, I also believe that you can help recapture revenue instead of leaving it on the table with each customer's forgot your password abandonment. I mean, can you expand on that a little?
Yeah, there are actually 2 different ways our technology helps to recapture revenue. The first is when a business is losing money because people share their credentials with unpaying freeloaders. And the most visible example of this is HBO. So millions of people borrow credentials from family or friends in order to watch shows like Game of Thrones when they might otherwise have been enticed into actually paying for it. And this is lost revenue for HBO, and it also means paying customers bear the full cost of entertainment that the freeloaders enjoy. So eliminating shareable credentials can lead to an increase in subscriptions or greater revenue. And the second way is by reducing friction for e-retailers. When the customers want to buy something, they've already loaded it into their cart, but they can't remember their credentials to log in. Experts estimate that e-retailers lose 12% of their revenue to this one issue. The traditional view is that product managers can't fix a problem with users forgetting their passwords, but with Worldwide Pass they can get rid of them completely, so a user who wants to buy something isn't delayed or taken out of context for a password reset.
So are you finding that most clients are losing their patience with that current flawed authentication process that they have in place at the moment?
The companies who become our clients recognize that most alternatives are simply treating symptoms, while we're actually offering a convenient solution to the core of the problem. And some of them are also under pressure from a compliance standpoint. For example, GDPR is right around the corner and will have a significant impact to international businesses which operate within the EU. And our technology not only offers unparalleled convenience and security, but it goes above and beyond with privacy protection. The GDPR uses language like privacy by design, and as a true zero-knowledge system, that's exactly what WWPass does.
So when these companies approach you, how do you help them visualize how you can actually go out there and help them improve the system in multiple industries such as media, entertainment, e-commerce, retail, financial, and all those other regulated organizations? How do you help them visualize just what a difference you can make?
Well, anyone can visit passhub.net to see how it works for free in less than 1 minute. We created passhub.net for two reasons. The first and most important reason is to show people how convenient it is to log in without human-readable credentials. So if you have a business or website that people log into and you're wondering what it would be like to get rid of passwords at your business or your website, you can experience it firsthand in less than a minute. It works whether you're logging in on a computer, a tablet, a phone, or a keyboardless environment like a TV screen. And the second reason is because, according to Google, only about 12% of the population actually uses password managers. That means nearly 90% of the population is using passwords that are simple enough for them to remember, and probably also storing them in unsecure ways like Excel spreadsheets or Post-it notes. PassHub.net is a free tool for anyone to use to generate long, complex passwords and store and organize the credentials to all of their accounts. Right now, most sites still use passwords and usernames, and our goal is to completely eliminate them everywhere. But until we do, PassHub.net is a useful tool to help anyone be safer online, and also to help them see, what a passwordless login experience could be like.
So I suppose the big question I've got to ask, especially with any kind of password manager really, is what if that one site that's got all your passwords in, what if that gets compromised? How do you get around that?
Well, we store our data in a very different way than most enterprises. The traditional approach is to keep everything in a consolidated, centralized database where humans, the trusted admins, the IT professionals at those companies, they have access to the entire data set. So they could go in and look at individual files of people if they need to for work, or if they're just curious and maybe doing stuff they're not supposed to be doing. That's how issues happen, where those data sets can get breached, or the data in them can be abused by people that had lapses of character at those companies. The way that we do it, it's all through a zero knowledge system, and we call it a secure distributed data storage system, where all of the data is first encrypted and then fragmented and then distributed using a Reed-Solomon algorithm, which works similar to a RAID array. And it basically breaks up the data into 12 pieces and puts them in all different locations. The locations are totally unknown to our company, other than we know that they're within our data centers. And in order for anyone to access that data, they need to use their passkey, which would be like the mobile app or a smart card or a USB key set if they're using them, to decrypt that data. And when they decrypt it, they only actually need to get 6 out of the 12 pieces of data in order to reassemble the entire data set. But this format of storing this data is extremely secure against all sorts of threats like ransomware, malicious actors within an organization that want to go and look up people's stuff and use it against them, or having an entire database be compromised because someone stole the credentials for one of the trusted IT professionals or admins that was running the whole thing. And because our system only works in such a way that the only person who can decrypt that data is the person that actually is physically in possession of the passkey, we know that the data is there, but we cannot decrypt it. We cannot see it. The only person that it ever will be accessible to is the person that actually owns it and put it there.
Fantastic. So what is next for you guys? Is there anything else that you can share with us today about the road ahead and things that you've got planned for the near future?
Yeah, right now we're in talks with some government organizations about providing people with smart card IDs. And these are far more useful than traditional ID cards because they allow you to connect and verify your real identity online. This makes ID counterfeiting futile, which puts a stop to the whole black market for fake IDs. And each user can pair their card with an unlimited number of different accounts, which means you can consolidate all of your ID cards into one. So rather than carry around various cards for your driver's license, your medical insurance, your dental insurance, your gym membership, your rewards cards, your library cards, if you have a hunting or fishing license, any of that, you can consolidate them all into one card by binding that card to all of these different accounts. And although there are some contexts where a smart card and a card reader may not be practical, the mobile app acts as a companion ID and can be used to log in without the physical card. This technology all exists right now. The solution is ready for people to start using it. We're just working to get government adoption so that everyone can benefit from it.
So before I let you go, can you remind anyone listening how they can find out more information about anything that we've talked about today, or even contact a member of your team if they have any questions?
The best way to learn more about our technology is to visit worldwidepass.com. That's WWPass.com. And you can contact us directly through the site. We'd be happy to meet with you to answer any other questions you have and discuss how we can meet the needs of your business. And the best place to try our technology is to visit passhub.net. And it literally takes less than a minute to get it all set up and see how it works.
Excellent. Well, I'll add all those links to the show notes just so people can find you guys nice and easily. It's a big thank you for coming on today and really opening my eyes upon this, because like you said, the typical user has over 100 usernames and 100 passwords. So what they're going to do, they're not going to write them down, they're not going to remember them, or if they do write them down, they'll write them down in the wrong place, which again can be compromised, which defeats the purpose. And people just repeat those same usernames and same passwords and increasing their risk. So a big thank you for just opening our eyes on that one, and a best of luck for the future. But and also, more than anything, thanks for coming on and sharing your story today.
Of course, thank you.
I think we can all agree that the current username password system is deeply flawed. And I've already heard firsthand from CEOs who complain about this problem that drives everyone from the shop floor to the boardroom completely nuts. But companies can get rid of usernames altogether, as well as recapture revenue instead of leaving it on the table with each customer's forgot your password abandonment. So a big thank you to Perry for taking the time to share how they're actually solving the problem with WWPass. But how's your company dealing with this issue? Are you sat there with another solution, or do you have a different approach? Share it with me and I'll share it with the listeners on the show in a future episode, and maybe we can start fixing a few problems together rather than just complaining about them. As always, you can tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, email me at techblogwriter@outlook.com, and don't forget to pop by my website, techblogwriter.co.uk/podcast, if you need to access any of the episodes or contact any of the guests that we've had on here. So the next time you lock yourself out of an online account and let out that not-so-silent scream, remember today's episode. But hey, I've taken up far too much of your time, so until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.